Welcome to Gridiron Icon. We're happy to be talking football again this week, and we have a very special guest that I'm excited to have on the show. Want to introduce Daniel Kelly, former New York Jets scout and aspiring NFL general manager. Also happens to be a lifelong fan of the Washington football team. He covers the Detroit Lions for Sports Illustrated, as well as NFL Draft Diamonds, where he gives us all sorts of insights on scouting the game we love. And not to be forgotten, he has a fantastic book called Whatever It Takes, a very inspiring story of how he became an NFL scout for the New York Jets. We'll talk more about that, but welcome, my friend Daniel Kelly.
Hey, thank you, Stacy. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show, and I appreciate the warm introduction. Now let's put the ball in the tee and let's roll.
Do this. Let's talk
right?
some football. That's what we're all about. And I'll tell you,
Absolutely.
I've been eager to get you on here and spend some time with you because your take on what is one of the top stories of the NFL this year, this rookie quarterback class, is not without controversy. And I love that you're actually putting it out there in some of your articles on what you're seeing with these NFL quarterbacks. So let's talk about these rookies. I want to jump back particularly to your article of April 24th, where you share with the world that you think Trevor Lawrence, Lance, and Zach Wilson may be closer to bust than they are franchise quarterbacks. Let's dig into that and tell us what you're seeing with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely, Stacy, and to our listeners. I mean, and I'm not without controversy. I mean, from the first day I walked into school as a little kid, I was controversial, and it's held true all the way throughout my entire life. But yeah, when I watch these three quarterbacks, in my 40 years of watching NFL football, I have never seen three quarterbacks more manufactured than these three. And when I say manufactured, I mean by the national narratives and major sports outlets that are driving them. When I say manufactured, I mean, the PR firms and the agents involved and the politics behind the scenes. Because, when I turn on the film, I mean, that's really what I base my opinions. I mean, scouting is not that difficult. You just have to love the game and love to grind film and take a lot of detailed notes and find the commonalities, and be willing to put in the time. And there's no shortcuts. Tony Rizzano, the famous 49ers scouting director back with Bill Walsh, had written a book called Secrets in an NFL Scout that was actually my tutorial, the book I learned to scout on. And he had a famous saying in that book, Stacy. It was, film doesn't lie. I've seen that hold true my entire life. And usually when I've been wrong on a guy, it's because I didn't put the time in to do the work, or I had limited film exposure, more or less. But when I actually take a look at these guys on film, I mean, I didn't just throw in a couple highlights. I mean, I looked at every one of their throws coming out over the last year or so. And so I looked at their full body of work, and I didn't like what I saw. I mean, starting with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, when we talk about Lawrence, number one, going to Jacksonville, I screamed from the mountaintop, don't do it. Nobody listened. They did it anyways. I mean, I was trying to contact Mr. Shad Khan's son, Tony Khan, prior to the draft and sending him my takes on Trevor Lawrence and, trying to position for the GM's job in Jacksonville. And, and what I saw some very alarming red flags at Clemson. And I saw a quarterback who I believe led the nation in screen passes, short dump off and screens. That was the first thing I kind of noticed that jumped out at me. And then I started noticing that he used the play. Well, they all do, really, but they use this play action and pump fake on every single throw. And his wasn't the best. And what I felt he was doing is I felt he was basically, by use of the play action, he was momentarily manipulating college defenses who weren't always that great to begin with. He was momentarily manipulating them to create what I call route leverage, which got his receivers more open. And that's why we saw a lot of his receivers running wild through the field and him throwing the ball to them. I saw some hesitancy I didn't like. And what I really didn't like is I really didn't like the fact that he seemed to, yes, the short level, the dump passes, the long passes, if you're going to play L. Davis football and just throw it deep every play, maybe there's a place for him in that scheme. But when I looked at the intermediate portion of the field, Stacy, I had grave concerns about Trevor Lawrence. And what my concern was that he seemed not to be wanting to throw the football until the receivers had come open or were coming open. You cannot make a living in the National Football League doing that. You have to be able to throw the ball on timing routes before the receiver breaks. Otherwise, you're going to be on SportsCenter, not for the right reasons. It's called a pick six. That's what it's called. Those vet DBs, they're going to bait the guy. And I mean, if you're waiting to the guy you're standing, and we saw this in the preseason. Anybody who watched the New Orleans game, even the announcers were talking about this. I mean, I said all this pre-draft. I'm not a Johnny come lately. The announcers talked about how it looks like he's a little bit more. You can see it. You can see like he drops back. He kind of does one of those things, and then he just kind of holds it for a moment. The pressure comes, the play breaks down. He is not having the same opportunity. And I said pre-draft, the way you beat Trevor Lawrence is you blitz him and you play tight man. You close those throwing windows for him and basically make him thread the needle. And he's really struggling this preseason to do this. He looks lost to me, Stacy, on film. He looks very herky-jerky. The Jacksonville Jaguars are not putting any consistent type of drives together. He was 5 out of 13 on third down conversions so far. One of those he ran for. He's not able to sustain any type of drives. He's put 3 points on the board so far through 2 preseason games. And while his other peers in this draft class are starting to crawl and take baby steps even, this guy's development looks like it's really last amongst the group.
I tell you, I saw a lot of that same stuff too as a total novice. And, off the air, so to speak, you and I were talking a little bit. I see a little bit of Jeff George in him, tons of talent. That should be, although he was a good quarterback, he was never in the right position. He never really developed into what he could have been to match the physical skills.
Always off a beat. It's like a song, a drummer, always off a beat.
Yeah, and then, of course, you couple that with some of the challenges, and you bring a lot of this out in your articles. That you couple that with the fact that Urban Meyer's new to the pro game. Of course, Travis Etienne is already hurt. The running game isn't there for Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm starting to lean your way on your trade. Yeah. Uh-oh. Does that mean I'm going to invite controversy as well? Probably.
I believe so.
What do you see in Trey Lance?
Yeah, Trey Lance, first of all, I think it was a desperate move by a couple of guys in San Francisco that were looking to extend their paychecks. When I talk about Kyle Shanahan and General Manager John Lynch, I mean, it's a proven scientific formula in the NFL. If you want to try to prolong your job, you get rid of the veteran, you bring in a rookie so you can sell the propaganda and the potential for another couple, 2-3 more years and steal the owner's money. And that's what I think has happened. I mean, we talk about, people talk about Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I mean, San Francisco fans, turn up the volume because when you talk about these guys, everyone talks about how good they are. They've had 3 out of 4 losing seasons. This is not. We're not talking about. We're not talking about Lombardi here. And so. And I mean Vince by that, but it's something that I think it was a desperate move by those two. I think it was motivated by their paychecks. I mean, I cracked Kyle's daddy's play scripting code prior to the 1998 AFC Championship game, so I know what's the deal is with the Shanahan regime, and I think that I think if you're going to trade 3 number 1 draft picks for somebody, I better be hearing the name Deshaun Watson real quickly, and a guy that I love who led the NFL in passing last year. And I understand the legal and the off-field troubles, but you need to get somebody in there's a dynamic quarterback, somebody who is a franchise quarterback. You're not going to bring in a guy that threw like 318 pass attempts against glorified high school competition in a subdivision up in North Dakota State. Not taking anything away from that program, of course, because it's a good program within itself. But just to say that you're going to trade 3 number 1s to bring in a guy that has such limited reps, he had even not that many reps even in high school. And when I turned on the film, I mean, so I was on a podcast, Stacey, last fall, and I didn't know who Trey Lance was from the guy down the street. And I turned on the film, and when I saw a poor man's Donovan McNabb when I watched the film. I saw a guy who had an average NFL arm. I saw a guy that wasn't that fast. We're not talking about Michael Vick. We're not talking about Randall Cunningham. We're talking about a guy that runs a 4.5 40. This guy's not going to beat anybody on his feet on a consistent basis. He's not elusive. And so I looked at all these qualities. I said, well, maybe he's a guy you bring in and run your scout team with if you're going to play an athletic team like they used to in the day, athletic quarterback. I mean, maybe that's something that you do, but, to take 3 number ones and throw them at this guy and mortgage the future of your franchise for a quarterback like this. And guess what? So far this preseason, everyone wants to talk about the 80-yard touchdown, but nobody wants to talk about the 4 of 13 he was the rest of the game. Nobody wants to talk about the 2-3 picks that go off defensive backs' hands the last 2 games. Nobody wants to talk about the sacks he's taking. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that he looks extremely streaky. And the reason why Kyle Shanahan is saying, well, yeah, maybe we'll mix him in a little bit here and there, because he's not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He's a gadget player. The San Francisco 49ers traded their future for a gadget player, a guy that's basically going to be able to spot here and there, maybe make a couple plays and maybe not. But he's not a starter. I wrote an article last week daring Kyle Shanahan to trade Jimmy G. Let's put the guy in the field. Let's put our money where our mouth is, and let's show the world what superstars we really are to do this deal. So I don't agree with it at all. And I think he's going to be a bust when he's a full-time starter. I think he's going to get exposed. He reminds me more of Deshaun Kaiser or Jason Campbell, especially in his energy level and his eyes, than he does anything else. These guys are putting him on Mount Rushmore, the 49ers quarterback mountain out there on these memes. I tell you what, the guy he's nowhere near Mount Rushmore for the San Francisco 49ers, their history. That's my take on that one.
Yeah, that would be awful tough to get on that Mount Rushmore with Mr. Montana and Mr. Young, Brody. There's several names that come up, but it's really interesting take. I'll tell you, there seems to be something going on in the NFC West between my favorite team, which I'm very open about, the Los Angeles Rams, and the 49ers.
No, you're not. No, you're not a big Rams fan. Come on, Stacey.
Unabashedly
hey, that stuff
so.
on your wall. What is that? What is that?
Mr. Youngblood hangs prominently. That's right. Yeah, but it's really something. These young quarterbacks seem to be doing that with these gadgety players, these players that they say are more mobile and have the talent. I agree with your take. I think when you look at a kid whose last meaningful game was against Central Arkansas well over a year ago.
Yikes.
And then, great play and great throw on the 80-yard throw. It was manufactured, put together by Shanahan. It was great highlight. But like you said, the rest of the stuff, you kind of sit there and wonder if he's going to be able to take the heat and the complexity of the NFL game. So very interesting take on Mr. Lance, and I'm sure not a popular one with 49ers fans nonetheless.
No, not at all. Matter of fact, I'm using that report to position myself to become the next GM of the 49ers. So hopefully 49ers fans will warm up to me eventually, especially when I start bringing the Vince Lombardi trophy back to San Fran.
He's got his eye on John Lynch's chair, folks.
You heard it here first.
I love it.
Hot take. He's coming.
Get after it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Trey Lance. Zach Wilson, he's put together a pretty nice preseason. Want to underline that word, preseason. But what's your take when you look at Zach?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Zach at all either. It's pretty well documented out there. I mean, first of all, they played a soft as tissue paper schedule out there at BYU. And the first thing I looked at as a scout was the fact that he ranked 9th all-time in passing leaders. I don't mean in the country. I mean at BYU. And that's very concerning, especially when you look at the list outside of Steve Young and Jim McMahon. I don't know if anybody, maybe Ty Detmer for us that are a little bit older to remember him, who was a serviceable and a good backup for a number of years. Outside of that, if you're number 9 on that list with about 6 other guys and probably most Americans haven't heard of, that's that's not a lot of good company. And so I looked at that to begin with, but I don't just look at stats. I turned on the film. I mean, yeah, he looks like someone's been working with him on the art of being a quarterback. So like Tiger Woods since he was 2-3 years old with the golf, only with the quarterback. I mean, he understands. He looks polished in the pocket. He understands all the drop back. He understands all the mechanics. He understands all that, but that's where it stops. To me, I mean, there's something like when you look at a Mac Jones, who was my QB2 heading into the draft from Alabama. I said that Mac Jones threw a lot of what I call receiver-friendly footballs, and what I mean by that is the yak, right? The yards after the catch. The guy reaches it. People say, boom, the ball is right there, and he keeps running right through the play, right? And that's what you see from Mac Jones in college, and that's what you're seeing really right now from Mac Jones at the New England Patriots. That's not the case with Zach Wilson. The ball's up high, guys are jumping, they're diving, the ball's all over the place. The ball placement is what is very important in the NFL, and to me, the ball placement wasn't that good at BYU. Another huge concern was that something that the Jets coaching staff is covering up right now is a long ball that Zach Wilson throws. Zach Wilson throws it was a smaller football too, which a lot of fans don't know. I didn't know until a couple of years ago. The college ball is a little bit smaller than the NFL, I mean, size-wise than the NFL ball. Well, what happened is that when you see Zach Wilson, I mean, turn on the tape. I mean, I'm not trying to make stuff up here. When you watch Zach Wilson throw the long ball, it's not one of those perfect NFL film, slow motion, twirling. It's none of that kind of thing, like a Randall Cunningham pass back in the day or something. It's not like that at all. It's kind of fluttering. It kind of looks like a little bit, like a little wobble to it. And the ball's coming down. A lot of those balls Zach Wilson threw in college were what I call 50-50 balls, and that's a terminology that some fans are familiar with, and this definitely draftniks are familiar with. It's basically a jump ball. It's like a jump ball in the NBA, where it's anyone's ball. Basically, it could go to the defensive back, could go to the receiver. To me, it just seemed like he's going to be an interception machine in the NFL. Now, to the point, I've come under a lot of fire from New York Jets fans who basically like to talk about that's the reason why the guy was fired in New York. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right? And of course, they hey, forget about it, get that guy out of here. That New York accent, right? But here's the deal about Zach Wilson. When I watch the film, what I'm seeing from Robert Saleh and company is I'm seeing a very conservative game plan preseason. And now there's a couple nice throws sprinkled in. I'll give them that. But those guys are a little bit more wide open too. What's really happening, there's a lot of more conservative game planning going on that's making him look very good. They're trying to do everything in their power to build a confidence in the young man. And let's keep in mind, these defenses that Zach Wilson's seeing right now are very vanilla looks in the NFL. He's not seeing these exotic looks and these different things where nose tackles become safeties and safeties become nose tackles. This kind of, I mean, I'm being exaggerative, but he's not seeing these kind of looks right now. And so it's going to be a whole new ball game come week one, and I don't think we're seeing an accurate representation. Now, what I do think Zach Wilson's showing is I think he's showing that maybe he'll be, somewhat efficient. I did give him a third-round grade. I didn't crush him in the draft. I see he's a guy you need to develop a little bit. But basically, they had that in Sam Darnold. I mean, they had someone who was efficient in Sam Darnold, and a guy who I really liked when I did him in 2019 after my interview in Washington. So I mean, you get rid of Darnold, who's a veteran guy that proves he can do it at this level, and you trade off for a guy who hasn't proven it. And I don't think, I mean, what you need when you're drafting a guy number 2, you need a big player. You need a dynamic playmaker. You need somebody who can do this. And I don't see anything about Zach Wilson that even remotely reminds me of a playmaker.
I'll tell you what, that is an awesome segue into the guy that I actually was really bullish on pre-draft, was in shock as he slid, particularly past the Broncos. I want to ask you about Justin Fields. Now, from where I sit, I saw a guy that loves the game. He's intense. Now, I recognize that there was the epilepsy controversy, which has never affected him. And he went on to win huge games at Ohio State. When you take a look at Justin Fields, am I on this? Because I see a guy that really, he reminds me of Steve McNair. He's a little raw, but he's a playmaker, loves the game. And I personally think that him, and you mentioned Mac Jones, are going to be the 2 best quarterbacks out of this draft. What do you see with Justin Fields?
Yeah, I agree with your take on that, Stacey. I really liked Justin Fields, heading out of the draft. He was my QB1 on my draft board, right, which is documented pre-draft and draft diamonds. I liked everything about the kid. I thought that, geez, I must be getting older if I call him a kid. Anyways,
They're all kids now.
they're all kids. Geez, what's going on here with me? So it's a weird thing. It's called aging. But anyways, yeah, I mean, when I watched Fields, I really liked what I saw. To me, it's 90% of the game is won from the neck up, and I love what I see in Justin Fields' eyes. Matt Millen, taught me years ago in NFL films that you can read a quarterback by his eyes. I like the energy. I like the body language. I like the way he carries himself. I like the just a whole. He's very decisive in the pocket. Let's put it that way. He makes very quick decisions. That's critically important in the NFL. They always have that little stopwatch going to see how fast these guys can throw the ball. And the thing I really liked about Fields, I just barely gave him the edge over Mac Jones, was his mobility. He's a legitimate dual threat. We talked about what Trey Lance is not. Well, this is what Justin Fields is. He's a real true dual threat. He's a guy that can beat you with his arm. He can beat you with his feet. He can make all the throws, short, intermediate, and deep. Which I think he's shown a little bit this preseason as well. And he can also take off and he can run. Which is a big thing too. And so I really like Fields quite a bit, and I think Chicago has probably their best quarterback in franchise history under center right now. And I know that's not saying a lot. You go back to Sid Luckman and Jim McMahon, but I think they're in for a treat in Chicago.
I got to tell you, man, that kid is impressive. And I agree. I think you have to look at the nuances of what he's shown us early and in his college career. He does have that look in his eye. Of course, he's got a just gigantic chip on his shoulder now that he slid in this draft, and a lot to prove. That hit he took in the preseason against Buffalo, knocked his helmet clean off, stands up, brushes himself off, comes right back with another play. I just stood right up off the couch and said, there you go. There you go. I mean, he got hit in the mouth early, stood up, winked at us and said, let's play some football. So
let's go.
Yeah, I just love what I see from Justin Fields. I think Chicago fans have a ton to be excited about after, Jay Cutler, Mitch Trubisky, and a host of other guys whom I cannot name off the top of my head. They got a bright future in store with this kid. So it's going to be interesting to see what Matt Nagy does early and often with the Andy Dalton situation, who he's already named as the starter. But come on now, Justin Fields is the future in Chicago.
Absolutely. Justin Fields is going to lead this team to the playoffs this year.
Love it. Bold predictions.
That's
Mr.
right.
Kelly. I love it. So you also like Jordan Love in Green Bay, staying in that division. Look, Aaron Rodgers is nearing, he's closer to the end than he is the beginning. And I think he's just incredibly gifted, maybe the most gifted quarterback I've seen outside of Dan Marino. But you like Jordan Love. You think that they're going to backfill pretty well when Rodgers decides to move on. And I think if he wins a Super Bowl, he's not Tom Brady. He's out. He's a cerebral guy. He'll go do something else. He'll host Jeopardy. What do you like about Jordan Love? I mean, it's been pretty limited, but you seem to, so far in this preseason, what we've seen, you seem to like him.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Even before the preseason, I came out, I said, Jordan Love can lead this team to the Super Bowl. I think that, Jordan Love, what he's showing us in the preseason, obviously didn't play last week, but the first preseason game, what he showed us was, again, he was able to make quick decisions out of the pocket. He was rifling the ball, and I don't mean like Trey Lance, where he was knocking down tin cans. He threw it so hard at guys from 5 yards away. I mean, he was throwing the ball hard downfield, and it was very accurate. He was able to slide around, move around in the pocket. He was able to elude the rush. He was able to roll out, pick up some yards with his feet. This is another guy that looks like he's developing as a dual threat. And I want to just take a moment to give a lot of credit to Brian Gutekunst in Green Bay, the general manager there. He's come under a lot of fire with his Aaron Rodgers fiasco, and a lot of fire with Jordan Love. And I tell you what, this kid is looking really good. And I am not at all impressed what I've seen of Aaron Rodgers from the moment he stepped off the field in the NFC Championship game. I think it's well documented. I a lot of articles out there on Draft Diamonds that talk about this. I think he's been a major distraction. I think his selfishness is off the charts. I don't think he is a leader at all of this team anymore. I think he's basically trying to dictate the terms to management, what he's going to do and who he's going to bring in and all these things. And I just don't like the direction that Aaron Rodgers is headed at all with this thing. It seems like the whole NFL has gone to his head, or maybe he's taken one too many hits to it. I'm not sure, but it's nuts. I've never seen a quarterback try to take over an organization before, and I know what he's doing. He's trying to position himself to be the GM of the team after he gets done playing, like John Elway did. But he's going about the wrong way, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Jordan Love jump in there. And once Love jumps in there, it's going to be really hard for Aaron Rodgers to get the job back, because I think Love is going to be the guy. And I know there's a lot of critics out there right now, but when you watch the tape, again, it goes back to the tape. Turn on the tape. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. When you go back to the tape that he has in his preseason, he looked really good in that preseason game, and I think he's got a bright future ahead of him in Green Bay.
I tell you, when I look at that kid, and time will get away from us, there's so many quarterbacks I want to ask you about. But when I look at Jordan Love and his situation, it's going to be fascinating to see if this entire fiasco actually really helped him. Just having the time, unlike a Trey Lance, who's probably going to be pushed into the starting position way too early. Jordan Love's had the opportunity to sit behind the MVP of the league, learn all the politics, learn how to take control of a locker room, learn how to play in an NFL game. And it's going to be interesting to see what that kid does, because I think this may be Aaron Rodgers last year, win or lose, in terms of a Super Bowl. Make it or not make it, I guess, is the better way of saying it. So it's going to be interesting. I want to switch gears just quickly. I know that you cover Detroit Lions for Sports Illustrated. Great insights, great stuff.
Thank you.
I happen to be a big Jared Goff fan, obviously with my passion for the Rams. I did not like the way that ended. I'm on record as saying I don't like the way it ended. I don't feel like all of the Rams' problems were on Jared Goff. I feel like there was a lot that the head coach should own in terms of play calling and a host of other things. But you see Jared getting this fresh start now in Detroit, and you cover the team. What do you see in the near future for Jared Goff? Can he take the Lions somewhere? Can he improve them? Can he be a franchise quarterback for the next 5-6 years? He's so young.
He is young, and I believe the answer to that is yes. I mean, the biggest thing that concerns me about Goff is I've always seen and watched the game, and whenever a quarterback loses his confidence, I mean, the game is won or lost again from the neck up. When a quarterback loses his confidence, he can still throw the ball through a tire from 80 yards away, but once he loses the confidence from here up, it's really tough. And I think his confidence really got rattled with the Rams, and I think that McVay had a lot to do with that. As you point out off the air, he had the earpiece on with McVay right in his ear, and that's a huge concern. Things really melted down, and where you saw it, come to life was on the game film again. Going back to the playoffs last year and towards the end of the season, Goff. I mean, because whenever I had seen Goff, I had a chance to evaluate him. But in the past, whenever I've seen Jared Goff play for you guys, for the Rams, it's always at a sports bar, and he's always throwing a big touchdown pass. And when guys are big play guys like that, that's rare in the NFL. Be a big play guy. And then when I started watching the season progress last year with Goff, I started seeing a quarterback that looked a little bit more gun shy, if you will, in the pocket, a guy that looked a little bit more hesitant, like we're talking about with Trevor Lawrence, a guy that, you could see the shoulders, you could see the second thought. And I think that things really melted down. It's well documented what happened with those guys, with the head coach and the quarterback and with the Rams when he was there. Now he's with Detroit. So far, so good this preseason. I've been pleasantly surprised to see what I've seen on film and his reps. He seems to be throwing the ball pretty well, getting the ball out. This could be, it's going to go one way or another. He's either going to be really good or he's going to be extremely bad. It's going to be nothing between, but if he comes out and has some success, it could be really good, and he could find a second life and be the first quarterback. I mean, I didn't say he lost his quarterback, his confidence with the Rams, but it was shaken severely. And to see how he comes back from that, if he comes back from that like Alex Smith came back from his injury, it actually makes him better on the field and makes him even more tough and more, there's more perseverance there. And he's like, okay, I'm going to show these guys. And he just comes out with that attitude. I think you can see some good things from this quarterback, Jared Goff.
I love it. Yeah, I am very curious as a fan and as a football guy just to see what he is like without Sean McVay. I mean, it's well documented. McVay helped his career, and there's no question of that McVay is a brilliant coach. But the whole dynamic of,
Absolutely.
being in his headset and being in his ear, until the mic's turned off before each play, and not developing him to read a defense in the way that most quarterbacks come up learning how to do that seems to be a problem. So it's going to be really interesting for me to watch him in Detroit in an offense and with a coach, an offensive coordinator that isn't putting that kind of pressure on him. And if he can get some confidence with a decent running game and Hawkinson at tight end, he's a little light on the wide receiver talent up there, hoping Amon St. Brown develops in Detroit. But those are pretty reasonable takes on Jared. I too think it's going to be absolutely boom or bust in Detroit. And I'm hoping it's boom for him because I think the talent is there. You mentioned some of those big plays. The 2018 games against Minnesota and the Monday night game against Kansas City, and even playing in the playoffs this last year with a busted thumb and beating the Seahawks on the road, almost should have beat the Packers. Our defense just folded when Aaron Donald got hurt. I think it's going to be really interesting to see him develop. I'm going to be watching your coverage of that team pretty closely, just as a side interest for me.
That's cool. Awesome stuff. I appreciate that.
I love it. So, okay, I want to switch gears a little bit to something that's near and dear to your heart, the Washington football team. So
what makes you say that? As I sport my new Jamin Davis jersey, just got from the NFL shop, and of course I have this too in my hand. I have the Redskins right in my hand, and I got that after the name was changed. So again, that controversy thing seems to follow me around, or whatever, however it goes.
That's diehard loyalty right there. What I want to know is when you get that general manager position, whether it's San Francisco or anywhere outside of Washington, are you going to have to wear a glove?
No, I won't be like Michael Jackson because this team doesn't exist anymore. So I'm good.
Oh, there you go. Valid point.
I'm good.
Valid point. Very nostalgic. I like it. Well, so focusing in on the Washington football team, a big changes there. I actually really like Ron Rivera. And I'm hoping Heineke wins that job at the quarterback position. Absolutely love Antonio Gibson. Lots we could talk about there. But I want to go into something really important, their name. Whoa. So here's what's floating around out there. Armada, Brigade, Red Hogs, Presidents, Commanders, Red Wolves, and Defenders. So as a lifelong fan, and I do mean lifelong, are any of those names jumping out at you? Are you excited about this? What do you want out of the Washington football team?
I would ideally like to see them go back to the Redskins. The world should be very count their lucky stars that it was Daniel Snyder that owned the team and not Daniel Kelly, because you know what, if I had billions of dollars, and I love Mr. Snyder. Mr. Snyder brought me out there for my interview and everything, and I've always felt that he's capable of doing great things out there in Washington, but when it comes to that, I would have tied that thing up in court into our great grandchildren. We're great grandparents. I would have. I would never moved off the name to begin with. Since the name has changed, you got to control the controllables in life, as one of my old managers and mentors taught me. And I frankly like the Washington football team. Just leave it the way it is. I think it's very unique. The team's always been kind of outside the box. It's always been kind of the Rodney Dangerfields of football. I think it's very fitting to their identity as far as their past and their legacy is concerned. None of those other names are remotely resonating with me. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. It's one of those things. I was heartbroken.
It's an emotional topic.
It was emotional. It was like somebody in my family died. It was like, oh geez. It's bad enough they take away a lot of stuff I like to wear and eat and go. And I'm always in the 2%. They always discontinue everything I like. But when they touched my football team, that was that was tough.
I got to tell you, it's an emotional topic. I looked at these names that are under consideration, and I just went, what? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what any of those look like. I would rather
I don't
they
even
just
know what
stay.
an armada is. I don't even know what that
I,
is.
yeah,
What'd you
I,
say? I don't know the one. I don't even know what
a
that
fleet
is.
of ships. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
make presidents. I mean, I'm just what? I mean, I hope at this point, because I actually like the way the uniforms are looking these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And Brandon, I like it. Washington football team may just catch. I don't know, but had to get your take on that. Had to get your opinion as a lifelong fan
Absolutely.
of that
Since 8 years
squad.
old. Yep. Absolutely.
Incredible. Well, hey, we like to finish up our visits together with what we call the 2-minute drill.
Awesome. Awesome. That's cool. And it's well timed because I got 10% left on my phone. So this is good. We're gonna go no huddle. Let's go. Fire in the
Perfect.
hole.
Rapid
Let's
fire.
go.
We're in the red zone 2-minute drill. Okay, I'm going to hit you with some quick stuff. Here we go. Rank them. Washington football team defensive backs. Ooh, is this tough? Sean Taylor, Darrell Green, or Champ Bailey?
Darrell Green.
Darrell Green, old school.
Old school, absolutely. Fastest man in the NFL repeatedly. A guy that caught your guy back from behind, Erie
Ooh,
Dickerson.
ooh.
Tony Dorsett as well. That was a pure shutdown corner. I mean, that was a guy that every week in and week out, you put him against the other team's number one. I don't care if it's Jerry Rice, Anthony Carter. I don't care who it was. He shut them down week after week. And he was a big part of the national defense. And really, I think severely underrated. I mean, he was a 5'8" corner who played like he was 6'5", and he could run probably about a 4.1, 4.2 40. So he was outstanding. Outside of that, number 2, Champ Bailey. I named my firstborn daughter after him when I was working at the Jets, Bailey Hope. So yeah, I loved it in 1999. So when she was born, so I'd have to go with Champ 2. And then Sean Taylor, not taking anything away from him, great player, very, very tragic how everything ended for him on this earth. And, he had the looks of being a Hall of Fame safety, no question.
Yeah, shout out to Bailey Hope, man.
Thank
That
you.
is devotion right there.
Thank you.
Okay. Rapid fire. Rank them. Washington football team running backs. John Riggins, Clinton Portis, or Alfred Morris?
You could have stopped after John Riggins.
I had a feeling we were going old school there.
Yeah, my favorite player of all time, number 44. And ironically, if you add up all the digits by Social Security number, I'm not going to say what it is on the air, but it equals 44. So it was in the stars before I was even born. I mean, my favorite player of all time. And who are the other two guys again?
Clinton Portis and Alfred Morris.
Yeah.
I guess you don't really need those names after that.
Hey, no, but not taking anything away from those guys either. Clinton Portis, number 2. I thought Clinton Portis could have played for Joe Gibbs back in the 80s. Even he was a throwback runner. I thought he was tough. He was emotional. He was a firecracker. And number 3, I would say Alfred Morris. I love the fact that he always drove his beater to practice, no matter how much money he made and how many touchdowns he scored. He always stayed true to who he was, and he definitely had a time and place on the timeline in franchise history, and a very good one at that.
No question about it. Okay, the Hogs or the Fun Bunch and Smurfs?
Hogs. Root
Big
them
shock.
out, root them out, root them out, Hogs. I got people in Washington probably doing that right now as they watch this. Yeah, Hogs.
Man, were they good.
Oh, it was
Ooh,
incredible.
they were
It was
good.
incredible. It's ironic that they were the biggest offensive line back in the early 80s. They'd be the smallest today if they played. I saw a stat on, but they were incredible. And they were the foundation of everything that happened in Washington. And yeah, those guys were awesome.
Love it. Most underrated player you've ever scouted or seen play?
Most underrated player I've ever seen play.
I got one in mind that we share in common as fans.
Yeah. I think for me, I think Mark Rippon for Washington was severely underrated. I mean, he was a 6th-round draft pick that went on to become Super Bowl 26 MVP. That'd be my take.
Big. I was thinking London Fletcher.
Oh, yeah.
Another really, I think one of the most underrated players in the last
It's very
15,
similar stats.
20 years.
I saw something, Stacy, that showed their stats on Facebook that I compared him to Ray Lewis, and their stats were almost even. I mean, absolutely underrated. It belongs in the Hall of Fame. Belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely love London. Okay, now this one hits close to the heart here. Well, this is for the score. We're going in. We're on the 1.
Quick, get those rookies off the field. Get Lawrence and Trey Lance and Zach Wilson off the field. If the game's on the line, we got to get those guys off the field. Come on, guys, go.
I'm going to hit you with 2 guys that you have worked for as a scout and as a member of the organization. For the Super Bowl, you can only pick one. Parcells or Belichick?
Parcells.
Ooh, that was quick.
Yeah.
Bill Parcells.
Got me without even thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to give props to Bill Parcells, the man who brought me in and hired me with the New York Jets. To me, and the reason why it's not just a personal bias, let's remember who gave Bill Belichick his big jobs. Let's remember who saw things in Bill Belichick before the rest of the world did. And I think that when you look at Bill Parcells, when you think of Bill Walsh, you think of the West Coast. When you think of these different coaches, Buddy Ryan, you think of the 46. You think of different schemes that these guys came up with. Lovie Smith was, Rod Marinelli with the Tampa 2. I think that with Parcells, there isn't a specific system per se, but he was a master delegator. And he had tremendous vision. He was able to see things in people that they couldn't even see in themselves. He met Charlie Weiss, I believe, in a health club. Charlie Weiss was even in football. He saw things in people that nobody else saw. He put together, arguably, I feel the best staff in NFL history with the New York Jets. We had 7 coaches come off that staff that became head coach at the college and the NFL level. And we had a star-studded front office as well with Dick Haley, the architect of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s, Scott Pioli, his son-in-law, who went on to become NFL Executive of the Decade, 5-time NFL Executive of the Year. Mike Tannenbaum, who was a famous capologist, came up with a lot of stuff that guys use today for the cap. It was just a star-studded staff up and down the boards. And of course, my mentor, Lionel Vitale, who's a college scouting director with the Dallas Cowboys now. He put together a great staff. And final answer, Bill Parcells.
I got to tell you, man, what an incredible experience you've had.
Oh.
I just can't believe, that coaching tree and the guys that have come out of there, by extension, Nick Saban, on and on it goes. Mm-hmm. What an incredible experience, but he goes for Darth Vader and not Luke Skywalker. He goes right for the mentor. I absolutely love it. Bill Parcells is an incredible coach and person for this league. Absolutely love it. Well, Daniel, my friend, I want to thank you for joining us this week. Folks, if you want to follow Daniel, I strongly recommend you check out whateverittakesbook.com. Pick up his book, Whatever It Takes. It's also excellent. Also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. There's a shot of it if you're watching via video. He also covers the Detroit Lions for Sports Illustrated, and you can find him on NFL Draft Diamonds giving some hot takes.
The hottest takes in America.
On quarterbacks. Get that scouting perspective from Daniel. I want to thank you again, sir. You can follow us at gridironicon.com or Icon Gridiron on Twitter. Daniel, thanks a million, man. This has been fantastic. Can't wait to have you on again as the season progresses.
Absolutely. Great questions. Great show. Great work, Stacey. Thank you so much for the honor and privilege to be on your show. And absolutely, I'll be back on anytime you want me on to talk NFL football for sure. Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners.
We will hold you to that. Thanks all. We will see you next week.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.